One, two, three, let's go. This is the Weekly Assist. I am Dylan Freeman.
My name is Mateo Reynes.
I'm Nick Kennealy.
And today we will take you around the sports world. As I always say, we're going to start it off with some Major League Baseball, the MLB, to say so myself. We're going to start off with the major news that is rocking the MLB world. The Houston Astros, after being investigated for a sign-stealing thing when they live-streamed to pick up signs and hit trash cans to relay them back to the batters, were fined $5 million, and their coach and GM were both suspended for 1 year, and they have fired head coach AJ Hinch, fired GM Jeff Luhnow, and the Red Sox head coach, who was the bench coach of the Astros, has been relieved of his duties in Boston. That was major news, and people were very surprised as two of the last three World Series winning coaches have now been fired from their teams. The next MLB news is Josh Donaldson signed a $92 million 4-year deal with the Minnesota Twins. A lot of people are thinking that puts them over the edge in their division. Also, Nolan Arenado trade talks are heating up, especially to the Cardinals. So that should be interesting to watch. One thing I was thinking is it's kind of funny if the Cardinals do trade for him because they traded for Paul Goldschmidt. So if they trade for Nolan Arenado, it's like they're taking all of the NL West's talent. Next in the NBA, Zion Williamson, the future potential face of the NBA, is to make his pro debut on January 22nd against the San Antonio Spurs. The Miami Heat want to add a superstar to pair with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. They have been surprisingly good this year, especially with rookie Tyler Hero, so that could put him over the edge. And lastly, Ja Morant is on fire. Last night he had a big win over the Rockets, and he is all the craze right now before Zion Madness starts. In the NFL, the bombshell that happened last night, Luke Kuechly retires at 28 years old. Do you want to touch on that, Dylan?
Yeah, it's just, I feel like this was probably a smart decision for him. I know it was a hard one for sure with his interview about it. He was really smart. Everybody knows Luke Kuechly as a smart man, but this was definitely a very hard decision for him to make. You know he loves football. He knows the game inside and out. I don't feel like this has anything to do with the new coaching hire of Matt Rule. I think Luke Kuechly's body is really just giving up on him, and I believe this was a smart decision for him to make.
And one interesting thing that I found is he was in the same exact draft class as Andrew Luck, who retired just before this season. So we might be in a new era of people retiring early.
Yeah, just as you touched on that, 6 months ago, you could have easily predicted that Andrew Luck would win MVP and Luke Kuechly could win Defensive Player of the Year, and now they are both retired at very young ages. I've seen this trend with linebackers before, Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman. There's some more that have retired early because football is such a physically demanding game, and there's no doubt that he loves football because in his presser, he was almost to tears. Yeah. He loves football, but it just must be really hard. He wants a good life. He just wants to make sure that he is around for the rest of it.
Yeah, obviously this is a big loss for the Panthers. Matt Rule is no stranger to bombshells and taking over distraught programs. It's not like the Panthers were just completely destroyed and had no hope after this season, but this is a huge loss. This is a leader of their team, leader of their defense, really their team. You have to replace him. It's going to be hard to. They might want to go out in free agency or do something in the draft. But I think this is a good lead into the next piece of news, which is Joe Brady, the passing game coordinator for LSU, who recently just won the college football championship, as I'm sure we'll talk about later. Joe Brady, passing game coordinator, and a hot name in the football world, is going to be hired as the offensive coordinator for Matt Rule's Carolina Panthers. How do you feel about that, Mateo?
I feel like this is a great move for the Carolina Panthers, especially considering that they might not keep Cam Newton per se. They might not commit to Kyle Allen or Will Grier, so they might have to mold a new young quarterback that they might get in a draft, but he is the man that is said to mold Joe Burrow into the superstar that he is at Louisiana State University. So I think this is a great move for the Panthers, and it shows that Matt Rule is not scared to make big moves, not scared, especially because he's coming from the college game, to get some college people in his staff. And I think that with a good quarterback, they might even draft someone that falls. For example, Jacob Eason. They have a mid-level draft pick, so they're not going to get one of the top, unless Justin Herbert falls or Tua falls because of injury. He is expected to be back for a workout before the draft, but Joe Burrow is obviously number one. But I think this is a great move that Carolina is making. After their surprising fire of Ron Rivera, I think they have just as good of a coaching staff now.
Yeah, it not only shows the boldness of Matt Rule, but it shows that the name Matt Rule is respected in the football world. Joe Brady was the passing game corner for LSU, who was the best team in college football. And the day after they won the college football championship, he signed that deal to go coach for Matt Rule and that Carolina Panthers. So he's bringing a good name to the Panthers, and I'm excited to see what he can do.
Next up, talking about the college game, is Chuba Hubbard is returning to Oklahoma State. He's supposed to be one of the top running backs in the draft. He had insane yards. I think he was a college football leading rusher last season, so that is a big name that has stayed. Next up, the Browns have hired Kevin Stefanski as their head coach, the former Vikings offensive coordinator. People were saying that the 49ers-Vikings game, basically the loser was going to end up the Browns head coach, as in Kevin Stefanski or our guy
Robert Saleh.
I do not know why I didn't know that. I literally talk about him 24/7. But that Kevin Stefanski has been hired, and I think that Dylan wants to touch on that.
Yeah, we're talking about news a little more than we usually do to get to today, but that is fine. And this is obviously going to be quite the challenge for Kevin Stefanski. There's a lot of personality on this Browns team, and he's got a lot of work to do. But there's this quote from his presser that I really liked, and I think if he can impose himself this way, it'll be very good for the Cleveland Browns. He says, "Personality is welcome. Your production is required." That shows that he is accepting the fact that there is going to be personality in that locker room, OBJ, Baker Mayfield, etc. But you have to produce. And if he is coaching that way, if players aren't producing, there's going to be consequences for that. OBJ did not come to any of the voluntary practices during the offseason, and Freddie Kitchens really did nothing about that. And when you start soft and you try to make have some repercussions for things later on in the season, you're not going to be taken seriously. I think it's good for Kevin Stefanski to set himself up as someone who's not going to let things slide. And I think I don't know how long he's going to be here for the Browns, but he's certainly better than Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, because they have plenty of talent on that roster. If someone can capitalize it, that certainly is a tough division, but they could enter into the wild card. Many people even predicted them to win the Super Bowl at preseason. That's absurd that nothing like that happened. But if Baker comes out of his sophomore slump and has a great third-year season, that could be great. And another thing that Kevin Stefanski can add to his resume. Going into other news in the NFL is Larry Fitzgerald has re-signed with the Arizona Cardinals on a one-year, $11 million deal. He is one of the all-time great wide receivers of all time, and as one great signs, another one retires as Antonio Gates retires again from the NFL. I think with Phillip Rivers probably out, he's probably just glad to enjoy retirement. He is the leading receiver of tight ends all time in the NFL. So that is all for news. And really quick, before we get into last week of the NFL, I want to remind you all that we are now on iTunes, we're on Spotify, and wherever you get podcasts. So along with YouTube, go check us out and subscribe on those platforms.
Yeah, so the platforms that we are now on include, of course, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. But it also includes Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and Google Podcasts. So now we are on 8 platforms. Share it, do whatever you want. Big things coming.
Yeah, so basically wherever you get podcasts, we're located. So please give us some support, check us out, and thank you all.
Yeah, obviously we're hoping for a lot of success to come out of this. This is a really big milestone for us. We've always wanted to get not off of YouTube, but we've always wanted to expand our viewership. And we do this, at least I can speak for myself. I do this because I love it. I don't do it because we get all these crazy views or we're making money. I just do it because I love it. And thank you all for everybody that's listening right now. I appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening. And we're going to keep making content expect great things. I can promise you that.
Yeah, just to add on that really quick, I love it too. So it was a great milestone to see that we got on all these platforms because it feels like we're a real podcast and not just videos now. So very proud of that accomplishment, and we have great things in store. And as we touch on that, we are now going into last week in the NFL, and let's start with the 49ers-Vikings game. Do you want to start off with that one, Dylan?
Yeah, this was a beautiful game. I was worried at first, but if you really look at it, offensively, the Vikings only had one play of big production, and that was the long touchdown pass to Stephon Diggs. Our defensive front was murdering the Vikings O-line all day, getting pressure on Kirk Cousins. And when we stopped the run, Dalvin Cook, I believe he had only 18 yards. The league's one of the league's leading rushers only having 18 yards. That's beautiful. That not only stops him, obviously, but that is a big part of their offense, and they work a lot off play action. They love to do that play action where Kirk Cousins rolls out to the right, and they work that. And the only way that works is if you develop a run game, and we really just shut that down.
Yeah, since the Colin Kaepernick era with the 49ers, we have not had much success. So this first playoff win in 6 years felt super good, and especially right from the start, we bottled up Dalvin Cook, who has one of the top – he's been playing unbelievable. He's one of the top running backs in the NFL, so that felt so good. Our front played very well, and they weren't able to do the things that they were able to do with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins still had a pretty good game, threw for 172 yards, nothing crazy. He didn't have a horrible primetime performance, but they really need their running back, who's the catalyst of that offense, to really step up if they want to do good, and they were not able to. And the 49ers running game, on the other hand, was unbelievable. Tevin Coleman averaging 4.8 yards per carry. Raheem Mostert averaging 4.8 yards per carry. That's just unbelievable. Matt Breida had 17 yards himself. Tevin Coleman was a leading back in that game. He had 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. And when you can establish the run, especially with this 49ers team, it opens so many things in our playbook. And basically, we just pound it down your throat, and we will win if we do things like that.
You know, watching this game, I was probably stressed for about a few moments there. The first few minutes before the 49ers scored. When Stephon Diggs got that weird burn on Witherspoon, well, I don't know what happened there. It looked like he tripped or something. He got taken out in like the second quarter.
Yeah, Mosley stepped in and played pretty well.
But besides that, that game was fairly easy to watch, as the 49ers, their last 5 games all came down to basically the last minute. Probably the most stressful moment of that game was when Nick Bosa went down for a solid 30 seconds.
He comes up.
Out of the grave.
I think the Bosa chance energized him. It looked like he just got the wind knocked out of him.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
The Bosa chance that it energized him. It gave him the energy that he needed.
Yeah, the 49ers faithful was there in big numbers. So when Bosa came out, I was stressed out for a second too. But when he came up, it just gave me this like warm feeling in my heart. I'm like, we are the 49ers. I was so happy. It just made me proud to be a 49ers fan. So that was an amazing moment. Definitely. But yeah, in the second quarter especially, we crushed the Vikings defensively. They had no first down in 27 minutes.
Yeah, on offense, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. We ran the ball a total of 43 times because that's what worked. We aren't going to ask Jimmy G to throw the ball 30 times if he doesn't need to. And obviously he wasn't lighting up the scoreboard. Or the stat sheet rather. He didn't throw the ball too many times, but he played well. He made a lot of key throws on third downs. And for this defense with the Vikings, we talk a lot about both offensive sides and the defense a little bit for the Niners. But when we're talking about the Vikings defense, they're great linebackers. Eric Kendricks among them, and their safeties did a pretty good job covering George Kittle in coverage, but in the passing game rather. And that's not all Kittle can do. I mean, he didn't have a great receiving day, but he's such a good and dual threat tight end that his blocking is really a big part and an extension of our running game. And that's really why I think he's probably the best tight end in the league. It's close between him and Kelsey, but his ability to block is just amazing.
Yeah, I definitely think he's the best tight end in the NFL. I'm a 49ers fan, so that may be a little bit of bias, but the things that he does in the blocking game and the receiving game is just uncanny. He's a once-in-a-generation talent, especially at tight end, and I can't wait to watch him for years to come. He's my favorite player personally, but especially we didn't have anyone that was a super big receiver in this game, Debo, but Kendrick Bourne really stepped up. He's had some rough patches this year, so that was really great to see him have that touchdown. He did have a skeptical drop, but otherwise I felt pretty good about him. And Garoppolo, many people, especially non-49ers fans, would say that he didn't have that great of a game. He was pretty consistent. He had that one bad throw that led to an interception, but But the fact that we can just run and like the drive after that, we didn't even throw the ball. The fact that we can run into a touchdown with like just it took time off the clock, and that's just a great type of football that Kyle Shanahan. He didn't have to break anything special out of his playbook, but he brought the right plays at the right time.
And in the next game, the Tennessee Titans in Baltimore versus the Ravens in a game where a running back threw a touchdown pass and a quarterback not named Lamar Jackson ran it for a touchdown. The Tennessee Titans defeated the Baltimore Ravens pretty handily, really.
Yeah, Derrick Henry is unbelievable. 195 yards rushing, averaging 6.5 yards a carry, and he threw a touchdown this game. Oh my God. The whole game, I was just waiting for the Ravens. I'm like, they're the Ravens. Look what they've done all season. Besides their Achilles heel, which seemed to be the Browns, they pretty much stomped almost every other opponent. And oh my God, Lamar Jackson had a great game statistically. He threw for 365 yards, ran for 143 yards. He didn't have much support in the running game. Weren't really able to establish the run because Mark Ingram was coming off an injury. But Lamar Jackson, the turnovers bit them in the butt, and with his two interceptions and one fumble, that's basically what led them to get this loss. But the Titans, although many people are going to say Ryan Tannehill didn't have a great game, he only had a 50% completion percentage. I personally think he had a great game. Johnny Smith had an unbelievable touchdown pass, so that was crazy. I think it was the first quarter that happened, but he threw that nice deep ball, which was a very pretty ball, and I think he did pretty good. He did exactly what he had to do, and with their unbelievable running game, so it was a statement win and the biggest upset of the playoffs thus far.
Yeah, simply the Titans do not need him to do much of anything but be smart and secure with the ball, and that's exactly what he does. I feel like Tannehill has really bought into his role with the team. He's not trying to do too much. He's not going up there trying to light up the field, throw it deep downfield. He knows that they're using him in a certain way, and it's really working deep in the playoffs here for the Titans.
I completely agree with that. He's there to do what he needs to do. He got 88 yards last game. I don't think he threw an interception. I don't remember.
No.
One. He did not. He's doing what he needs to do. He's moving the team down the field when he needs to do it. But otherwise, it's just handed off to Derrick Henry.
Yeah, this game was it was pretty surprising to me. I thought it was going to be close personally, but I did not expect it to be a blowout in the Titans' favor. So that was very surprising to me. The main bright spot for the Baltimore Ravens was their young rookie receiver, Marquise Brown, had a monster game, 126 yards receiving. He had that long, deep catch that was near the goal line, so that was very well. So he's definitely going to be one of Lamar Jackson's favorite targets for years to come. But the Ravens are a really good team. Lamar Jackson can throw the football. I don't want to hear the people say, oh, he's not a quarterback, he can't play in the playoffs. He hasn't been very good in the playoffs, but I'm still a believer in him. And people give him too much flack. He is a second-year quarterback. Literally, people are treating him like he's been in the playoffs like 8 years. He's literally led his team to playoffs 2 straight years in the 2 seasons he's been in the NFL. So I'm a firm believer in Lamar Jackson. I think he's going to be great for years to come. And that's my opinion on things. The next game was the Houston Texans versus Kansas City Chiefs.
What was this game?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to touch on this really quick. I had a driving class. I almost killed my dad when I heard it was during the football game, but I only missed about half of a quarter. And I come in and I'm like, wow, the Texans are up by like 10 points. And I'm like, my dad's like, oh yeah, they were up by like 24. And I'm like, wow, they're up by 24. And I'm like, and then I watch and I get to see all of Mahomes' greatness. Mahomes had an unbelievable game. The one thing about Mahomes is he doesn't give up. While they're down 24, he was seen not consoling his team, but keeping them, saying, guys, we're still in this. They're down 24 points, more than 3 touchdowns, and he is energizing his team, telling them they're still in it. That shows how good of a leader Patrick Mahomes is, and he certainly not only leadership was his only great point in the game, as he threw for 321 yards and 5 touchdowns.
I just don't even know what to say with this game. It started off as a blowout in the Texans' favor, and then a comeback by the Chiefs, a close game, and then it finished with a 20-point blowout on the side of the Chiefs. This was a crazy game. Pat Mahomes just getting hype the whole time. Even after his first touchdown, when they were down 24-7, he was getting hype. Clearly, he's a galvanizing leader. Galvanizing, what a great word. Galvanizing leader, and he brings his team in. He plays well, and man, it was really impressive.
I think more than anything, this game really showed off Patrick Mahomes' leadership. I think a lot of quarterbacks, if they're down 24-0 in the playoffs, they're just like, okay, well, let's just try to not get blown out. But not for Patrick Mahomes. He will
it's
not.
Playoffs. I don't think they really care.
Well,
I don't know about
that.
that.
I mean, of course, they're trying to get the win, but down 24-0, that is not acceptable for Patrick Mahomes. He said, "No, we are turning this around. We will turn this on the head of the Texans," and that is exactly what he did.
Yeah, that was an amazing comeback. He was able to target one of his favorite guys to throw to, Travis Kelce, for 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. People are going to say he's the best tight end in NFL after that one because Kittle didn't have an amazing stat line, but he helped in the blocking game. But he was able to dump it off. Travis Kelce hasn't had the most unbelievable year, but this is certainly a bright spot. He was unbelievable, and Patrick Mahomes was able to give it to his guy. Deshaun Watson
wasn't even bad.
What?
Deshaun wasn't even bad.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson actually had a pretty good game. Of course, he was up 24 points, so he had to be pretty good.
Right.
Definitely their second half wasn't as stellar, but he threw for 388 yards and 2 touchdowns. Didn't get much help in the running game. A lot of people are putting a lot of weight on their coach, Bill O'Brien, that there needs to be a change, but he brought this team up against a perennial contender. So I think that he is still a good coach. Deshaun Watson defended him. Some quarterbacks, especially Baker Mayfield, don't necessarily. Well, it was a different situation. Freddie Kitchens definitely didn't bring the Browns to the playoffs. But the Texans, it's a sad organization right now. They're definitely the best team in Texas, at least this year. But they're 0-4 in the divisional round in their history as their young franchise. But I think with Deshaun Watson, if they get a nice running back. I know Lamar Miller was hurt this year. I think they should move on from Lamar Miller, Carlos Hyde, and all of Duke Johnson.
Or maybe get like a complimentary back.
Or
Lamar Miller.
Yeah, I think that they should sign someone that because Lamar Miller, he was really good in Miami. He's had some shaky seasons, but I don't know about him. But I think that if they have a couple more assets, it's good to have Will Fuller back because he's been hurt a lot this season. But I definitely think they have a bright future with Deshaun Watson. But this game just really highlighted how good Patrick Mahomes was. A lot of people were just focusing on Lamar Jackson this year, underestimating the glory of Patrick Mahomes, and he showed it to them in this game that he is still here. The next game was Seahawks versus Packers, and the main thing that I think from this one is Rodgers to Adams. That's the main thing I'm going to say because they were unbelievable. They didn't have the best second half. They're up 21-3 in the first half, but Rodgers to Adams just worked. Devontae Adams had 160 yards and 2 touchdowns, and in the running game, Aaron Jones really stepped up with 2 touchdowns, 62 yards. But as the other side of the ball, they weren't able to get much done. Especially it was basically the Russell Wilson show because they weren't really able to establish many rushing yards with their backups. Marshawn Lynch did have 2 touchdowns, but Green Bay capitalized on this and they took the victory in Lambeau.
It's just insanity to me because many Seahawks fans, I know many moving from the Seattle area, are talking about that last play with Jimmy Graham that really sealed the game where, yeah, sure, he was short of that first down on third down, but they certainly would have went for it there on fourth down and the game would have been over. I know how it feels to be all NFL fans know how it feels to be slighted by a call by the refs. And when you lose like that, it's very easy to blame it on that. But really, if I were to sum it up, the Hawks literally could not cover Devontae Adams. They could not make third down stops, and they had a very poor offensive first half. And that's really why they lost. I know that one play is really what's going to be postered and explained to be the reason for the loss, but it's not as simple as that.
Yeah, as I touched on last week, as Zach Schomler said, it's a collection of the whole game, and they were not the better team, and that came out. Even if they didn't get that, they definitely would have got it on a fourth down conversion. And I just think that it was a great win for the Packers. It was good for Jimmy Graham to have the game-clinching catch, especially against his old team that he was with for many years. There was one moment I was a little skeptical on was when Pete Carroll punted the ball with around 5 minutes left. They weren't even able to get the ball back, so that was rough. So it was a good win for the Packers, but unfortunately for them, they have to play the 49ers next week.
Yeah, and talking about next week, in the third quarter, I feel the fraudulent Packers defense was exposed. They did not the Seahawks could not capitalize because this Packer defense is not good. They have a very good pass rush and good corner and Jair Alexander, but that's really it. And their defense hasn't been that great. They don't have very good linebackers, but really the Seahawks just couldn't get it done there.
And now we have an ad break.
Brought to you by Anchor.
Next, after being done with the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, we're going to talk on the college football playoff championship between the Clemson Tigers, number 3 overall, and the LSU Tigers, number 1 overall. And guess what? The Tigers won. And it was the LSU Tigers. After being backed up early, not being able to escape the 10-yard line, Joe Burrow led the LSU offense back on a big comeback that led them to win by a lot of points. I don't know the exact amount. I think it's 17, I think. I don't know. I think it's 17 points. I can't do quick math. But basically, Joe Burrow threw it deep to Jamar Chase, who is unbelievable. I think we're definitely going to see him on the gridiron and playing on Sundays. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire was able to rush a little bit. He ran for 110 yards. It was clutch in clutch situations. And his trusty dusty red zone threat, young Moss, I like to call him, Thaddeus Moss, caught 2 touchdowns. Of course, the son of the NFL great Randy Moss, and it was a statement win. Ed Ogeron was so happy after the game. We did this for LSU, Louisiana, and everyone in the area. Go Tigers! That was such a cool moment. I was rooting for LSU. I was so glad they won. It was so cool to see Joe Burrow, the excitement that he has. He has moxie like Baker Mayfield, but he is a better player. Like, for example, when he was pointing at his ring finger before the game was even over. And he's going to be great in the NFL, I hope. But it was a great game, very exciting to watch, and a good win for Louisiana State University after not winning since 2007, I believe.
Yeah, it's sad to see Burrow now. His fate lies in the hands of the Cincinnati Bengals, it seems. But, man, was he great. He broke the touchdown passing record for college football quarterbacks with 60 touchdowns. The previous record was held by, I believe, Colt Brennan. He had 58 touchdowns. But, man, Joe Burrow, he not only has moxie, but he has poise as well. In an interview with Pardon My Take, PMT, they asked him if he was ever nervous or he was ever having to hype up his boys, and he said no, not even close. And it just feels like this was the season they knew they were the team of destiny, and they felt like they couldn't lose, and they had so much poise. And even being down, what was it, 17-0? They just came back, and it was a great game to watch.
Yeah, Clemson, it was Trevor Lawrence's first career college football loss, so that was pretty crazy. He's been so accustomed to winning, of course, winning the national championship last year as a true freshman. I felt like they should have relied heavier on their star running back, Travis Etienne, but they didn't. Wasn't great play call by Dabo Swinney. Not my favorite of people. I don't really love.
He rubs people.
Yeah,
way, but I feel like he loves football. But
yeah, he probably loves football. But Trevor Lawrence had a good game, but he just wasn't able to outduel the Joe Burrow. So it was a great win for LSU. Louisiana probably hasn't went to sleep yet. Literally, everyone's still partying after the game. It had to be an electric atmosphere. I will say that there was a bunch of Clemson fans, but it was in Louisiana, 80 miles from the stadium. That had to be an electric atmosphere for sure. Early in the game, as I touched on, Brett Venables, the defensive coordinator for the Clemson Tigers, had some very good rush blitz schemes developed to really stop the LSU offense, but one of their best defensive players was thrown out for targeting, and they just weren't able to stay consistent. Of course, Joe Burrow was going to be Joe Burrow, and that's what led to them getting the natty.
Yeah, this was a little bittersweet for me because I love Joe Burrow and Coach O. It's just so amazing to watch Coach O on the sideline, and it's amazing to watch Joe Burrow play. But I am, in fact, a USC fan, and Coach O was the interim head coach for USC a few seasons ago, and we decided, his sideline antics are not Trojan-like, and the way he speaks and all that is not good enough for these high-class Southern Californians. But it's just sad because now Coach O has had such great success. Obviously, not sad for him. I'm happy for him because he was really crushed. He said that it was like being taken away from your child, having that job taken away from him at USC. He was really just thrown out, in the dark, but it's nice to see him have this success.
Yeah, Coach O is definitely an all-time football guy, and that it shows that USC thinks they're so much holier than thou than they actually are. They're not even a top team in the Pac-12, which many people, especially in the southern states, are mock the Pac-12. I personally am a big Pac-12 fan, but it just goes to show bad decisions by the boosters at USC, and Coach O is a great football coach, and I think Louisiana is the perfect fit for him. I think he had a cut on his head because he punched himself in the face, getting the team riled up before the game. So definitely cool. He's from Louisiana. To see him get this win. He said, well, as a child, he always dreamed of being the head coach of LSU. So that had to be an amazing feeling to get that win. All right. Next up, we're going to do our decade draft for running backs. Last week, we started off with quarterbacks. We went through every year since 2010, since it is the start of the new decade, and chose who we would choose if we were starting a franchise. Which running back would we choose? Starting off with 2010, I would definitely choose LeGarrette Blount out of Oregon. He was a Patriot star on there. He's a great brute running back. He definitely had some good years with the Patriots, won some Super Bowls, and I definitely would choose him. Even though he has off-the-field issues, he is definitely my choice.
Yeah, he is from Oregon, which is Mateo's favorite team. I'm also picking LeGarrette Blount. This draft class was not very good. He got himself in a little bit of trouble at Oregon. He punched an opposing player in the face, but that's besides the point.
I will say that if Ryan Matthews' career wasn't so riddled with injuries, I think he could have been one of the best, but he definitely had a bunch of injuries in San Diego during his tenure. Starting off with 2011.
In 2011, this is quite the easy. Well, I wouldn't say so. In 2011, I am taking the now Ravens running back, Mark Ingram.
In 2011, I would also choose Mark Ingram. He has proven to be a good running back on multiple teams and multiple opportunities. Some of the other names, Shane Vereen, who was good in the passing attack for the Patriots for many years. Dion Lewis, who's also good in the passing attack for the Patriots for many years. And Stephen Ridley, who's on the Patriots as well. But one person that it's all Patriots. Okay. Yeah. But DeMarco Murray, I felt like if he ended up having a career like he was set to have, like he was on fire for the Cowboys. He was the best running back in the NFL for a portion of time. So if he continued on that, we could have definitely been in the year 2020 saying that he's the best running back in this year and possibly even one of the best running backs in the NFL for many years. But unfortunately, after going to the Philadelphia Eagles, he was not able to maintain the same level of production. In 2012, it's not the greatest of years. They have Trent Richardson, who was good in college, Doug Martin, Lamar Miller, and Alfred Morris. And while I'm kind of leaning towards Lamar Miller, he has. If I'm restarting a franchise, I'd choose Doug Martin because he was definitely supposed to be really good. He was good for a couple years, and I think that he could have been a franchise running back if he continued on the same pace.
Yeah, I agree with that. I am a Doug Martin fan. It was a little close for me to decide there, but I am picking Lamar Miller here for 2012.
In 2013, it's pretty much a one-man race. It's Le'Veon Bell. Although there is also big man Eddie Lacy, Mike Gillislee, Giovanni Bernard, and Latavius Murray. Even though Le'Veon Bell didn't have the greatest years last year, he's still one of the top running backs of the NFL and definitely the best one in this draft.
Yeah, I was thinking the same. Some people would hesitate to call Le'Veon Bell one of the best running backs in the league at this point after his, I'd say, poor performance last season, but he's definitely the best player in this 2013 draft.
In 2014, not the greatest of drafts. A couple of people that have been on the 49ers, Carlos Hyde and Jerick McKinnon, although Jerick McKinnon has never suited up as a 49er, but he's been on the roster for 2 years. Also, Jeremy Hill and Washington great Bishop Sankey and Oregon great D'Anthony Thomas. He was listed as a running back, even though I personally saw him as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
But my pick is Devontae Freeman. He is proven to be the best running back off of this crop, and I think he's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's obviously Devontae Freeman. I think his poor season is more him than whereas Le'Veon Bell, it's just meshing with the system. Devontae Freeman hasn't been the same for at least this last year, but he's definitely the best running back out of 2014.
In 2015, this is a really good draft for running back. Some of the names are Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, TJ Yeldon, Tevin Coleman, and David Johnson. Also, Jay Ajayi, the MLS superstar for the Philadelphia Union. So I was pretty torn between David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, and Todd Gurley, but I'm choosing Todd Gurley because he had a pretty amazing season, and he's proven to be a great running back. Although he didn't break out and have as great a season as he has had last year, I think he's the best running back in this draft class.
Yeah, this one was really close. It was a three-headed monster to start with me, David Johnson, Melvin Gordon, and Todd Gurley. And it came down to Melvin Gordon and Todd Gurley. And my heart really just tells me Todd Gurley. It's really close. I like Melvin Gordon a lot, but I'm taking Todd Gurley.
Like last year or 2 years ago, this wouldn't even have been a question.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's really what I was considering too. And then 2016, this was quite the good class. We had Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Jordan Howard, Kenyon Drake. Yeah, it was really just two. And
Kenyon Drake. He's been on fire.
yeah, I guess so. And this was hard, especially because Derrick Henry has been a complete beast. Tractor Cito has been a monster this season, especially in the playoffs. But I am going to take Ezekiel Elliott barely here over Derrick Henry. I feel like he's somewhat more of a complete back, although Derrick Henry is probably my favorite running back in the league right now.
What have you done for me lately? That is why I'm picking Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry has been a beast when it matters most. Ezekiel Elliott hasn't really been great on that stage. He was a great college player. He definitely is one of the probably top 7 running back, probably top five. Top 5 running backs in the NFL, but I'm just going to go with Derrick Henry because he's on a tear right now. 2017, it's a great draft it's one of the best drafts ever. Like, it's a great for quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers. I'm assuming next week we're going to do wide receiver decade draft, but some of the names are Leonard Fournette, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, James Conner, Tariq Cohen, Marlon Mack, Aaron Jones in the 6th round.
Such a good draft
and
class.
Chris Carson in the 7th round, I believe. So this is full of basically top 15 running backs, all bell cow backs on their teams. I'm personally going to go with Christian McCaffrey, although it's pretty close with Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. But Christian McCaffrey is just instrumental in leading his team. He basically is the team of at least last year. He went all pro for flex and running back. He's an all-around back, and I think he is the best.
I just think C-Mac's ability to just be an extension of the passing game and really the leader of that passing game for the Panthers is really the reason why I'm picking him out of this very, very good class.
In 2018, it wasn't the greatest draft. There was a couple good guys. Saquon Barkley, Sony Michel, Nick Chubb, both Georgia. Sony Michel and Nick Chubb were. Mm-hmm. Ronald Jones, who could still do some things. Possibly. And Darius Geis, who's been good when he is healthy. It's obviously Saquon Barkley. Actually, some people might say Nick Chubb because he's really good as well. Sony Michel didn't have the greatest season last year, but he was good 2 years ago on that Super Bowl run. But I have to go with Saquon Barkley because he is a complete back, and he's going to be great for many years to come. Yeah,
I think Saquon as well. He had a bit of a sophomore slump, but I think that was a lot due to the play calling, but I think he's definitely the best player in this 2018 draft. I like Nick Chubb a lot, but I'm taking Barkley.
In 2018, it's another – in 2019, it's pretty much a 4-man race. Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary. David Montgomery didn't have as great of a season as I thought he would. Devin Singletary had a pretty good season after taking over for LaShawn McCoy. Miles Sanders broke out at the end of the season, but I have to go with Josh Jacobs. He had a few injuries, but I'm pretty much sure they just didn't want to rush him back considering they probably weren't making the playoffs, although they were in the end. But he is definitely a really good running back, and I think he's going to be good for years to come.
Yeah, I think Josh Jacobs can really be a star. And, Mateo, who's your Rookie of the Year pick?
Rookie of the Year pick? Oh, David Montgomery.
Oh, yeah. I was just but I'm taking Josh Jacobs in this 2019.
That was a bad take. I thought he was going to be amazing. I thought the Bears were really good. Yeah. But Mitch happened, unfortunately. All right. And now we're done with that. Let's go into our picks. Last week, Dylan was 2-2. Nick was 2-2. I was 3-1. I do not know Nick's record, but I know it's not as good as mine. Dylan is 5-7 at a 42% winning percentage. I'm 8-6-2 at a 56% winning percentage. And this week there are only 2 games, as it is the championship round, one of the best rounds because it's a lot of football. Yes. It's before the Super Bowl. The first game is the Titans-Chiefs game, and I am very skeptical on this one. I'm leaning towards Titans, but I'm just going to pick Chiefs because how good Patrick Mahomes played, and I feel like Arrowhead's going to be very electric, and Tannehill's going to be forced to do a little bit more because I'm pretty sure that they're just going to game plan around stopping Derrick Henry. So I think Ryan Tannehill isn't going to be horrible, but he isn't going to be Patrick Mahomes level.
Tractorcito, singing it like it's Despacito. I am going to take the Titans here solely based on the fact that they do have Derrick Henry, the best running back in the league at the moment. I feel like this is going to be a close game.
Really quick, best running back in the league, but you didn't pick him?
Okay. Yeah, whatever. I still like Zeke. But what the Chiefs need to do probably is play a lot of man coverage, make Ryan Tannehill make those tight throws. And I think the Titans are going to be able to pull it out. They are a team of destiny, but expect this to be a very close game.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the Titans on this one. I feel like Derrick Henry will be able to beat the Chiefs' rushing defense, and I think that's purely what's going to get them past the Chiefs.
All right, next game is Packers 49ers. I'm glad that you guys both picked the Chiefs because I'm pretty sure we're all going to pick the same person here. So basically, I'm the only person that could technically win the week. But Packers, 49ers, Levi Stadium, bang, bang, Niner gang. Kyle Shanahan is going to have an amazing playbook developed, and we are going to ground and pound. Garoppolo is going to air it out a few times, and we are going to beat Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is just going to cry. And luckily, he is close enough he can reach his childhood home and cry in his hometown bed.
I'm a little less confident than Mateo is, not because I'm not confident in the team. It's just the playoffs. You never know. I want to be poised. I don't want to be too cocky, but I think we're going to get to Aaron Rodgers early, and we're going to keep that on throughout the entire game. This offensive line for the Packers has not been very good, and it's been banged up as of recent. And I think this run game for the Niners is going to be established. And when we do pass it, expect to see George Kittle making great plays because I can tell you what, Blake Martinez cannot cover George Kittle.
True.
I'm also taking the Niners on this one. Last week against the Vikings, Dalvin Cook was absolutely stuffed for, 2 average yards per carry?
Yeah.
I think they're going to be able to stuff Aaron Jones. Going to force them to pass it.
Forcing them to pass it isn't like the best idea.
Because Aaron Rodgers. However,
it's not like we're facing Ryan Tannehill.
Okay, it's not like we're facing Tannehill or Kirk Cousins. However, Richard Sherman is covering one side of the field, and it seems like most quarterbacks, logically, would not like to throw it near Sherman. Kirk Cousins learned the hard way when Thielen stopped on his route or something last week. I don't know what happened there.
Thielen wasn't 100%. So.
Well, true. He did have an ankle injury coming from practice, but I still think the Niners are going to pull this one through.
Yeah, one thing that I think especially is that since Richard Sherman could pretty much, I don't know if he can completely bottle up Devontae Adams, but I think he's going to definitely be able to stop him, and they don't have many other options. They have an old Jimmy Graham, Kumaro, Alan Lazard got hurt last game. I don't know his status in this one. But also, just to mention really quick, D Ford and George Kittle have missed practice today on Wednesday. That's not much of a concern.
I believe they're expected to play.
Yeah, they're expected to play. I just wanted to mention it really quick. But I think that besides Devontae Adams, they don't have much, and Aaron Jones, they don't have much of an attack. I think our rushing defense is the best in the league, and although we have we're kind of banged up, I definitely think that at least Richard Sherman could bottle people up, so I'm pretty confident in this game. And that is all for the Weekly Assist. Thank you guys so much for watching, and one more time, we are on all of your platforms. Wherever you get podcasts, we pretty much are. To name the big ones, we are on Apple, iTunes, the podcast app, obviously, Spotify, and Google.
We're also on Google Podcasts. And Anchor.
And Anchor, our company, apparently. But we're also on YouTube, the Old Reliable. So make sure to subscribe as many places as you can. Listen at least 3 times to help us out. But thank you so much. My name is Mateo Reynes.
I am your lovely Dylan Freeman.
I've been Nick Kennealy.
We love you guys so much, and we will see you guys next week. Next week we'll have the reaction to the championship weekend and also our wide receiver decade draft. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.